Good evening and welcome to the January 10th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast by FCTV on cable channel 9. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what could be seen and heard in your background. We have a full complement of commissioners tonight. Thank you all for your dedication. I'd like to remind you that for commenting, I'll call on each of you in turn, so we can refrain from speaking over each other. Also, that all votes are done by roll call. So when I call your name, please state your name and your vote for the record, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct, and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the Act and or the bylaw do not apply, so the project may proceed as proposed. However, a positive determination means that the provisions of the Act and or the bylaw do in fact apply and or may require some conditions. So the project would require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you kind of want to hear a negative determination. Lastly, at the moment, for the benefit of anyone waiting for a particular hearing tonight, but so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearings are expected to be continued. 30 Marshview Road, 45 Owl's Nest Road, 22 Millfield Street, 153 Sea Pit Road. All right, first up for our first official hearing of the new year is a request for continuance for determination of applicability. Eileen Meany, 30 Marshview Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to repair the existing deck, platform, and railings, and to reconstruct the stairs in accordance with the state building code. Ms. Bergeron, I think.
Thank you. The applicant has requested a continuance until February 14th.
Heard, so move.
Arlo Hawk, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this RDA until February 14th. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Heard, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Arlo Hawk's eye.
Melissa.
Hartog, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this RDA until February 14th. Next up are requests for continuance under a notice of intent. First up, Eric Forsgaard, 45 Isles Nest Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, R-A-Z-E, an existing dwelling, construct a new dwelling with a deck, patios, and rinse station, and to replace the existing sewage disposal system. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance. This is Owl's Nest for January 17th.
So moved, Arlo Hawks.
Heard, second.
All right. All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until January 17. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Heard, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Arlo Hawk's eye.
Melissa.
Hartog, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until January 17. Next continuance request, Thomas and Elizabeth Shee, the Quinella Group, LLC, 22 Millfield Street, Woods Hole, Mass, for permission to install a dock in Eel Pond. Ms. Burt, I'm sorry, Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance, Mill Pond, until January 31st.
So moved, Harlow Hawks.
Bird
Gladfelter,
second.
second.
All right. This is like the third continuance. Is it legit?
The applicant's representative had a personal conflict tonight.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second for a continuance until January 31st. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks eye.
Melissa,
Bartok, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this hearing until January 31. Next request for continuance, Mary and Susan Johnston, 153 Seapit Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct a walkway and to install coir fiber rolls. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until January 24th.
So moved, Harlow Hawks.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till 124. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks eye.
Melissa,
Bartok, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this hearing until January 24. All right. That brings us to requests for determination of applicability. First up, Matthew McCarthy, 63 Ovington Drive, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to pump, dry, and fill the existing cesspool, install a Title V sewage disposal system, reconstruct a landing and steps, and construct a garage. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this property is solely located in an AE flood zone.
So moved, Harlow Hawks.
Patton second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? Melissa?
Yeah, isn't this one that that a lot of it said all the vegetation has already been removed from the property? Is there anything we can do to stop these egregious violations before they happen?
So about half of this property is out of jurisdiction. The half that is in contains the house, where the leaching is proposed, and the construction access. So solely focusing where our jurisdiction is, there's not a great place for a tree to go back. That's why we had suggested working with the applicant and their representative to maybe put back some square footage of shrub material, you know, somewhere on the side of the property where there's a little bit of room and it won't interfere with the leaching. Just to put some kind of biomass back.
Yeah, but I'm glad that you did that, but it says your thing says staff noticed that nearly all the vegetation has already been removed. Was that in our
That was-
jurisdiction or
Some of it
no?
was. It's more of a note that work has occurred prior to permits being obtained. You know, there's not even a building permit for this yet, and yet all the trees have been taken down. So it's really just a note. There's not much we can do about the work not in our jurisdiction.
Yeah, but it's the stuff in our jurisdiction. Yeah, I wish people would be more mindful, but thank you. Okay.
All right, anything else? We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks eye.
Melissa,
Bartok, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Wendy Nicodemus, 7 Compass Circle, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct a retaining wall and to replace a section of the existing curbing. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Heard, so moved.
Carla Hawk second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Heard, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Right child and I.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Lockstead Association, 115 Coonamessett Circle, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to conduct minor invasive species removal. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Heard, so moved.
Carla Hawk second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Heard, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Right child and I.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Falmouth Resort Owner LLC, 350 Quaker Road, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to perform interior and exterior renovations and to repair the pool patio. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Heard, so moved.
Carla Hawk second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Heard, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Right child and I.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Keith Tortorella and Marianella Van Eaton, 126 Bay Road, Falmouth, Mass. For after-the-fact permission to replace a licensed timber pier. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a +4 under the state and a +3 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and I can
Heard, so moved.
explain.
Carla Hawk's second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation of a +4 and a +3. Questions or comments? All right, we're
If I
voting.
can elaborate on it.
So they
Please.
need to come back and file a notice.
So this has nothing to do actually with the pier. We do have Raul Lazardi from Cape and Islands here to speak on behalf of the applicant if he wants to be promoted. Staff actually recommended that the applicant file this RDA. It was reconstructed, excuse me, without permits with a few minor changes. But for the most part, it looks like it can be permitted as is. The reason we're bringing it to your attention is that there was an RDA from last year that was to remedy violations on the property. There was a time frame attached to it, which has not been completed. And so it's difficult for the staff to support a second project when the violations haven't been remedied yet, and we weren't aware of that until going out and actually doing another site visit. So I don't know if, did Raul raise his hand? Maybe not. Jen, was there anything you wanted to add?
Commissioners, hold on.
I'm looking to see if Raul has his hand raised. Nope. Nope, I have nothing to add. We've been attempting to work with the applicant, and we feel that they're at this point not responding to us. So a positive determination would require a notice, and we could wrap everything up in and get it resolved through that notice. Raul is raising his hand. Here I come, Raul.
Courtney, I see you. Let's get the presentation done first.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize he was, sorry.
All right. Raul, you're up, sir.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizaldi from Cape Anales Engineering. I did talk to Elisa yesterday about this project, and I also followed it up with the applicant. Fortunately, the applicant is going through some medical issues, and they couldn't get the other work done. But they do understand that if a notice of intent is the next step to get all this outstanding issues with conservation, that's what they're going to do.
Okay. Thank you, Raul. That simplifies it for us. Courtney,
He just answered my question.
excellent. Melissa?
Yeah, I'm just concerned that here's another case of, some people going ahead and doing things without actually coming for permits or anything like this. And in this case, this is a dock that was expanded. And it really ires me. So I hope that people will vote to support staff's positive agreement. Because, I mean, it's an expanded dock, no less. It's an after the fact dock. So, yeah, it's just more egregious violations. Hopefully they will,
That's what this is all
Remedy
about.
everything.
So
pardon?
that's what this is all about.
Yep.
Why don't we
so-
just go to the vote?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you,
whatever-
Betsy. Yes, done.
Have any questions or comments? So the motion in the second on the table is to accept staff recommendation of a +4, +3. We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Melissa,
Sorry, Freitag, aye.
Steve.
Patton eye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, CV Realty Trust, 110 Alder Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove the existing leaching pits and install a new Title V leaching field system. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
So moved, Carlo Hawks.
Bird second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Melissa,
Freitag, aye.
Steve.
Patton eye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, our continued request for determination of applicability. The first one has already been continued to 2/14. Next up, Megan McGough, 46 Miami Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct an addition, remove a shed and install dry wells. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project is solely located in an AE flood zone.
Bird so move.
Carlo Hawks, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, Steve?
Why would this have to be continued is my question.
It was continued the first time because, similar to the first RDA we heard, all of the vegetation was decimated by the time I got there, and there was no limit of work on the original plan, and hopefully we were trying to save some of the existing vegetation, and when I got there it was it had exceeded that limit. So we needed the plan updated to reflect that new limit of work and to show 2 trees to be installed to again compensate for the loss of biomass.
I just wanted to prove there was a good reason for doing it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments? Melissa?
Yeah, Alyssa, do you think that the 2 trees is enough? I mean, we keep saying biomass has been removed. It sounds like a lot more than just a tree or 2.
It's hard under these filings where they're flood zone only because the performance standards are a bit lacking in that area. concerning that it is still in jurisdiction. We try to have some sort of habitat value and just in general vegetation on these properties. There was a portion that was removed a couple years ago, but that was for a septic install. And I believe I had reviewed it at the time, and I'm better at my job now than I was then and didn't require anything to be installed then. So I can only work off of what was left.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. I wish people would understand that removing vegetation from their flood zone properties actually hurts their homes. That's it.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Melissa,
That's not I.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff recommendation. All right, next up are requests for hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. And as a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. Also, please know that all correspondence received by the Conservation Department is forwarded to all commissioners and becomes part of the record. We will not read each and every letter we receive at a hearing. And remember, our jurisdiction is that of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, not zoning, health, or building, for example. First up, David Greer and Stephanie Quay, 63 Little Island Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to conduct invasive species removal and restoration. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Tom Funker is here to present his project. Tom, am I promoting anybody else tonight with you? Nope, just you?
I'm alone tonight.
Okay, I
Just
wasn't
me.
sure if one of the arborists or landscapers was here with you. Okay,
No, not making it tonight.
okay.
For the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. Prepared this, her name is Stephanie Quay. So we get that right. She had to tell us the first time to Stephanie Quay, 63 Little Island Road. If I may share the screen, I'll get into it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So this is the property, as you can see, if you're familiar with Little Island Road, say on this locus map. See, it's an odd shaped lot, a sickle or an L or whatever, on the north side of Little Island Road, and it goes out toward the west end of the property, terminates in salt marsh. Actually, the property line is a ditch that goes through the salt marsh. Does not have frontage out on Buzzards Bay. And say there's a ditch going down. That's marked as the property line there. So the property is in flood zone up to velocity flood zone VE elevation 18 up to this point here. And of course, there's the ever-present Falmouth velocity zone behind that, in addition to the FEMA AE elevation 15. So the entire lot's flood zone, and the work that we are proposing is in a velocity zone. This is all vegetation management. The biggest part being right up here, as you can see in the staff report, this area was cleared. There was a violation, not by the present owner, planted back, not maintained. And so this has, it's luckily, it's mainly contained to this area. There are bittersweet and other invasive plants, but it's mainly the bittersweet that's growing up everything. And this is the main focus of this application. Hamilton Tree and Landscape will be doing the work. Jesse couldn't be here, but it'll be cleared mainly, and we have a vista pruning area going down here, also 25 feet wide. And there is a twin cherry tree in this location that, you know, has a black knot fungus growing on it. And that tree, the two stems of that tree will be removed. And then otherwise, this area ringing around here will be cleared out, grubbed where necessary. In the staff report that says it was planted, and there's at least just on a casual looking, there's a viburnum, and I know there's other clefra through here that looks like it could have been from an older planting area. But this is all to be removed, the bittersweet and anything else that's non-native to be removed. And we do have here a wood chip path around it to maintain, to keep cutting back, because it's at least on the across the property line and into there's a wetland right through here. So on the other, it only goes up to that stone wall. So we're not going to go any further, and so we will need this little demilitarized zone where the invasives can be trimmed back to not get back into the area that's being managed. And so that'll be done and be all filled up nicely with sorry, with the native shrubs. And it's not going to be exactly a straight line like that, because there's probably some, you know, stragglers up toward these cedar trees, but it's pretty much along this line where it's the worst. And then the vista pruning here, there are a couple of cedar trees in here where we have particularly this one oak tree here. It's crowding out the cedars. And this is all described in the notes down here. Been through them, but it's for clearing that out. We proposed mowing. There's a lot of the bullbriar or greenbrier or catbrier, whatever you want to call it, in this whole area here, but just to clear it around, mainly around these cedar trees here, and a little bit around behind and around the boulder also. And there's the this Russian olive that will be taken out, and there are a few little cedar trees around there, and take the Russian olive out. I think probably in note 3, I might say to doesn't say it, but they should flush cut it, and at least with your permission, to treat the cut stem with some herbicide so it can sprout back. And this here, note 2 is to take out this oak tree. It's a dead standing oak tree, and remove all of the bittersweet vines that are growing up around it. We do have a chronology here of during what time. So the cutting, clearing, whatever can be done during the winter, and finishing up, tidying the place up in the spring, but recommend covering it with wood chips, and keep watching it over this first 2024 growing season to get everything out. If it looks good enough at the end of the growing season to plant in the fall, I think it might need a little bit more time to go into the spring of 2025 before planting, but that'll be on a inspection in the fall basis to see if commission staff or the department staff would recommend this coming fall or the following spring to do the planting. Staff report mentioned a couple changes, clarifications and changes to some of that, but one particularly being not to take out some of the saplings behind the boulder, or not clear behind the boulder, and maybe not going 10 feet. And I passed this by the Hamilton people, and they said that everything looks good. So however you want to condition it or modify it, we'd be happy to take your recommendations. So that's that.
All right, Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Just lost my staff report. I think we should, not quite sure, Tom, why we have to clear like around the boulder. I mean, there's you're already, that's kind of outside of that vista that's already established, and the boulder's not gonna die. So I think that area should be left alone.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that area should be left alone. Please make sure that, you know, the maintenance path or the demilitarized zone, as you call them, doesn't turn into kind of like a little access path. And the one other area that we had concern, Alyssa, like I said, I just lost my staff. Oh, try to.
I think the one you said you felt that didn't need to go 10 feet out into that other area to mow.
No, I mean, maybe 5 feet, but that 10 feet was pretty large. I just don't, you know, we don't think it's necessary. So if we can tighten that radius up a bit, that would be great.
Yep.
And I think that's all.
All right. Ms. Bergeron?
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
All right, commissioner comments. Betsy?
Tom, I just have one question. Whatever Jen and Alyssa recommend, and it's fine with you, it's fine with me. But you always on your plans have notes that say locus identification, it's within zoning district, whatever. Locus is not within nitrogen sensitive zone 2 of public.
Yep.
And how you have on your plan, you're referring to notes 1 through whatever. So if you could just call it something different.
Right, yeah. Yeah, the note 2 of the description of the work. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah.
Just add a new designation so it's clear.
Right, yeah, I didn't catch that, yeah.
I mean, I started out going, note 1, huh, locus identification, what does that have to do with it? And then of course I read over.
Yeah, I didn't have a good proofreader here.
Yeah, that's why you send them to us.
Exactly. Alyssa is a good proofreader.
I'm surprised Alyssa didn't pick that one up. Thank you. That's it, Jamie.
So nothing about the project? All right.
No, I mean, the project is fine. It'll be nice to clean up all these invasives.
All right. Courtney?
So Betsy spoken like a pure school teacher. You know how to copy edit your pupils. I have nothing further to add.
All right. Kevin?
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Maury?
I just had one question, and that is, what are you planting for natives?
That's native. Yeah, you're right.
Usually you put like 2 to 3 gallon.
I'll put a list. I'll talk with
staff.
Jesse, and I think he did. I think in one of his emails to me he did, and I didn't put it onto here. I'll put something on.
Okay. Just that, because otherwise whoever's doing the work, you know, it will be left to them, and I think it should be left to staff and the owners or whatever. And then the other question was, I did see that some lelands were planted on the north side, and they might want to, while they're in there, since those are non-natives, to maybe include some cedars or some other evergreen that would be more indicative to that area. If this whole project is an invasive species removal, we shouldn't be encouraging planting Leland cypresses there. And they're not very established, so it's not as if they couldn't move them out of our jurisdiction or something. And I think that was, oh, and you're gonna be doing the planting, the clearing early, so just as long as somebody is capable of identifying the species that are native that you want to keep, that you were talking about, because it's hard that time of year. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a nice project.
Excellent. Melissa,
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks, Tom, for the project description here. Couple of questions. I agree with the staff on their bits about the builder or the boulder and the 10-foot. When I was out there, I was wondering, you know, you called it a small swath, but I mean, we usually allow like a 3 or 4 foot swath, and here you are 10 feet. I thought that was a little much, so that can go down. But also, I'm wondering if you're actually removing invasives to allow indigenous plants, then why? I mean, in the report, staff finds that oak saplings crowding the cedars could be removed, not should be removed. And I would like to say that I don't think they should be removed. Because they're really, I mean, they're not invasive. They're oaks. I guess when I was there, I kept looking at on the plan as to what you had drawn in as the vista corridor, and I kept thinking, you know, removing around the boulder and removing around those cedars, removing the oaks is really just opening up, is almost doubling the size of the vista corridor. And I guess I felt like it was a little too obvious on the map for that. So I'd rather not have all those oaks removed. There's a path between the boulder and the 10-foot proposed area that goes down to the stone wall. What's that all about, that path? I mean, there's cut back. I mean, granted, they were mostly prickers and stuff, but why? It didn't seem to go much further. Was that for?
You're talking about the path shown on the plan?
No, it's not shown on the plan.
Oh,
It's heading sort of from the word, well, from the sort of the northern point of the 10-foot
yeah.
loop, heading out towards the stone wall at I guess it would be sort of a northwest angle. What is that path? And there's another one that sort of goes around and behind in there.
Well, I did walk down that path a little ways. It's I don't know. It's not a very heavily traveled path. It's as I recall, it's just a path where I suppose they walk down once in a while.
To the stone wall or into the marsh, or I mean, is it?
Well, I didn't hunt for where they go. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe I don't know. I was thinking maybe does it need to be memorialized on the plan? I mean, we do allow a little path going down to the water, but it is a marsh there. Two other questions. The cherry tree that you're pulling out, are you going to be replanting a tree somewhere to replace that tree?
Oh, we're not proposing to.
Might be nice to replace the tree. I mean, it was, I know it's diseased, but it was a fairly, it's a larger, it's an obvious tree that was there.
Yeah, I mean, if it's conditioned in there into that, you know, the replanting area, I'm sure they can put one up there just outside of the vista corridor.
Yeah, outside the vista corridor. And then I was looking at all the Phragmites out beyond the project area. Any chance that there's a plan to be working on those at some point? I mean, you're just sort of working right there on the lawn area and not going into the Phragmites invasives.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, when we did the survey, we went out and what the project was for was vegetation management. So we did the survey, including locating all the Phragmites, and then turned out to be only this area. So at the time, I don't know that there's a plan to do anything there, but you know, we have the groundwork laid for preparing a plan if they ever get to it.
Okay, well, it'd be nice if they could, but
Yeah.
Thanks for this, and I guess I'll just second staff and 5 and 6, your notes, numbers 5 and 6. I understood your notes. Numbers 5 and 6. I would suggest they be rethought. Thank you. That's it.
Ms. Bergeron, I think I saw your hand up.
I just had a clarification question for Melissa. The path that you were talking about, wondering where it went, is that located between the two cedars and the boulder?
It's located between, yeah, the cedars and the boulder.
I've had
And
a
actually,
couple site
I-
visits on the property with Miss Quay when we were going through the vista
Uh-huh.
over the past year or two, and she did mention that that path was existing. The previous homeowner would walk that path to the adjacent property, see that homeowner. So it's
Mhm.
sort of a previously existing path. I don't believe it's in use anymore because it just goes to someone else's property.
Okay,
So I don't think it's an access path.
okay, so you don't need to memorialize it on the plan. So.
I don't think so.
Okay, great, thanks.
Steve,
Thank you. I agree with Maury's comments from slightly earlier. And I don't have any other stat. I just wanted to know what they were going to plan. Thank you.
all right. All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Not regarding this project, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, what are you thinking, folks?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing further, we're voting
I'll
to
just,
close.
before, I'll just say, I was just gonna say, I'll work with your staff to make a couple little changes to it. But I hope you can close it tonight anyway.
We're heading there.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. All right, anything else? All right, Melissa?
Tom, do you think we can get a plant list or in writing or something like that, the number of plants and that you'll work with staff on determining
Yes.
things before we vote in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thanks.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. We're voting to close the hearing. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Melissa?
Frog eye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Great, thank you and happy 2024.
Thank
you.
you, Tom.
All right.
Great.
Hey,
One shot,
One and
Good shot.
done.
one and
Thanks,
done.
Tom.
that's it. I'm out of here.
Good night, Tom.
Good night, Tom. Mr.
Next
Chair,
up.
pardon me for a moment. I've got to dash for a sec. Be right back.
Next up, James Bouchel, 4 Eldridge Drive, North Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, R-A-Z-E, the existing dwelling, construct a new dwelling with an attached garage and deck, upgrade the existing sewage disposal system to an IA system, and install mitigation and restoration plantings.
I
And
thought this was Rob from Bracken, but Zach, if you're gonna take this one, can you raise your hand?
He's presenting.
Okay, excellent. Give me 1 second, Mr. Chairman. I thought I had seen a Rob in earlier, so I thought that was Rob. And then I couldn't find him, and I'm like, where did he go? Mr. Chairman, I'm promoting Zachary Bazinski up from Bracken Engineering to present this project. Hello, Zach.
Good evening. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Zach Basinski, professional engineer, Bracken Engineering. Here this evening on behalf of the property owner, James Bouchel. At this time, I will share my screen.
excellent.
As mentioned, we're here this evening under a notice of intent to request the approval to raise or demo an existing single-family house. Existing property, existing structure was built in 1962. It's a 16,000 square foot lot located in North Falmouth. Resource areas on or near the lot are a coastal beach to the north side of the property, a land subject to coastal storm flowage, VE zone. the land under the ocean, and an associated coastal bank. All associated buffer zones have been shown on the plan. So as mentioned, the property owner is looking to demo the existing structure and rebuild a new structure on the property. The structure has been slightly enlarged and rotated on the property, moving it further away from the resource areas. Currently, we're just over 13 feet to a deck, and under proposed conditions, we're going to be up to just over 18 feet, so not getting any closer with any proposed structures. This was a project that was in front of the commission back in 2017 for a septic repair. It was upgraded at that time. We're looking at maintaining the existing leach field in the backyard that was previously installed, and then upgrading the on-site septic system to a new nitrogen reduction septic system, which would further enhance the water protection in the area. Also, as part of the project, we're looking at restoring the coastal bank with some restoration plantings, and then that would be about 950 square feet, and then an additional 1,368 square feet of proposed mitigation plantings on the lot. We did receive a staff report back, which we've updated a new plan, sent that in today to address those comments. We've added a detail onto the plan for dry wells to show that on the lot. We've also increased the mitigation plantings to address a previous driveway that was installed on the lot after the fact, after the previous work was done to upgrade the on-site septic system. So we're increasing the mitigation on-site to offset that extra driveway area on the lot. There is one proposed 20-inch diameter tree that's proposed to come down in the backyard, which we would offset on a mitigation plan. Part of this request, we're asking that the final mitigation plan be reviewed at a final date. The applicants have also retained Wilkinson Ecological to evaluate the coastal bank for invasive species removal, and then come up with a stabilization project to stabilize the toe of the bank. So we assume that we're going to be back in front of this commission with or not assume, but propose that we're going to be back in front of this commission with either a new notice of intent or an amendment to this notice of intent to address that erosion at the bottom of the bank, and then put a finalized planting plan together, and then also address some previous trees that were required under the old 2017 permit on the lot. So we believe we meet all the local performance standards on the project, and we will turn it back over.
Thanks, Zach. All right, Jen.
Zach, can you clarify, are the missing trees from 2017, are they on this revised plan? I didn't have a real chance to look at it.
Yeah, we throw the 4 trees down here right in the corner right now. Jen, what will happen is when we do the mitigation planting for the 20-inch tree that comes down, we'll have the caliper birth on that final tree, in addition to these 4 trees that were required under that one too.
Okay. Okay, I think this might have addressed all of our comments, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. Thank you, Zach, for addressing everything that we had. Worst case scenario, if there is an instance something goes on and we don't see that filing from Wilkinson, we can always put a special condition that we can work with you guys to properly locate where those 4 trees should go on the property for them to make sense. But for right now, I think it's something to work with. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments, Courtney.
No comments.
All right, Kevin.
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Maury.
I just had 2, and one of them was I saw on the erosion control detail that it's a blown-in filter media compost material, and I think with that steepness of that bank, I think it should be straw bales. And usually in the order we always say, unless it's approved by the administrator, that you can use a biolog, but you have it on the plan, and unfortunately, usually it just gets put in because it's on your plan. And like I say, it's a lot of construction going on there, so it might need a little more support.
We can amend that.
The second thing is, I'm glad to see a denitrifying system. The only thing I would recommend or suggest is that you talk to your client that the FAST system with DEP is not meeting the TMDLs for nitrogen removal. So if they're going to all the expense to put a D-nite in, they might want to investigate a nitro system, which is the one that the DEP is moving forward to be the future of the denitrifying in areas of no sewering. And it would be better to do it now in this big project, I think, than later. And just a
That's the Clean
suggestion.
2, that's the Clean
Yeah,
2
we can-
system?
Pardon?
Is that the Clean 2 Nitro?
Nitro, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's the one that they're really moving forward with. It's the only one that's showing the quantity of nitrogen removal that's going to be required. Okay, that's all. Thank you. And I'm glad you moved back a little bit. It was hard.
Tough property. All right. Melissa, did you hear enough of the presentation?
I think I did. I don't have any questions. I just have one comment about the plans, if I may. Nice site, Zach. Thanks for doing this. Just for future reference or for future applications, you know, you've got your before and your after, but that 20-inch oak that's coming out, if you could, you know, put it on the after plan with an X through them, the larger trees that are coming out, that would be appreciated in the future. So that because I found myself, you know, trying to figure out, is everything staying, is nothing staying, what else is missing there? Okay,
Can do.
you know, thank you, that's it.
Steve?
I don't have any questions. Thank you for the comment about coming back for the bank erosion issue.
Thank you. Betsy?
Yeah, I have a question, Zach, and I don't know if your surveyor called you and mentioned this, but your proposed garage slab is 20 feet, 20.5 feet, but your existing slab is 25.7. So that would be digging down 5 feet.
Nope, that was a carryover. That was a typo. Good catch.
So you're not going to dig. There's no cut and fill.
No, same grade.
So I showed that your surveyor, and he said, "Huh." He said, "Why would they do that?" Okay.
Nope.
So you'll get a new plan into Jen with the correct.
Yes, with the correct slab elevation on that one.
Okay, thanks, Zach. That's
Good
all,
eye.
Jamie.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
I didn't see that.
1 second, Mr. Chairman, I'm just writing something down.
Holding.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Not for this project, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, what are you thinking?
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Third second.
Gladfelter.
Was there any?
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If
was-
there's nothing
Wait
further,
a sec. I think Maury has a question.
was there
I'm
any?
sorry,
I'm
I
sorry.
was looking down. Apologize. Maury,
I just was wondering if there was any public comment.
I asked. There was none.
Wasn't. Thank you. I'm sorry. I missed that. Thank you.
Okay, so the next thing up is we're gonna do an election so that Maury's gonna run for chairman. And
No, I'm gonna get a hearing aid.
all right, busting your chops. All right, we have a motion and a second after we have heard that there was no public chat function comments. We're voting to close the hearing. Let's see.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Third eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Hello, Hawk's Eye.
Melissa,
Right, guy.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed the hearing.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
I'm gonna
Thanks,
stick
Zach.
around for the next one.
You're here for the next one, Zach? Okay.
All right, next up, Falmouth Resort Owner LLC, 350 Quaker Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to replace and relocate the existing grease traps and pump chamber. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Zach Buzinski from Kraken Engineering is here to present his project.
Long time no see. You're up, sir.
Again, for the record, Zach Basinski, professional engineer, Bracket Engineering, here this evening on behalf of the Seacrest Hotel. I'm going to share my screen at this time.
Okay.
So this is an emergency repair. We're here to replace the existing grease trap pump chamber. The top of the grease trap had collapsed a few weeks back. So we've worked with staff, reached out to the health department. This is a on-site septic system that's actually managed and reviewed through DEP. So what we're looking to do here is remove the existing, relocate the existing grease trap system that services the backside of the Seacrest main hotel kitchen flow out of the coastal dune and place it into the existing developed areas behind the back of the building. So resource areas on or near the lot are land subject to coastal storm flowage, coastal beach, and a coastal dune system that was flagged by Sebacia Incorporated. So the existing sewer system, septic system was installed roughly in 1982. It's comprised of a couple grease traps outside the back, a very large tank, 12,000 gallon tank, then into a pump chamber, and then pumps the grease waste up through the parking lot out to the front where it's treated and the wastewater treatment plant. So what we're here to do is we're going to pump out the existing tanks, remove the risers, infill the existing tanks in place with flowable fill, rebuild the dunes, install a new waste line out of the back of the building. We had initially looked at trying to replumb the building internally, but the too many conflicts exist under the existing flooring system of the existing building that prevent us to do that. So it'd be all handwork to install a new trench line, very small machinery through the back here to get a new grease line over, to install a new 5,000 gallon grease trap, another 5,000 gallon grease trap, and then a new pump chamber in the existing parking lot. All dunes would be restored back to original conditions. All riser grade covers on the existing tanks would be removed and replaced. Existing area would be repaved, no increase in impervious area in the back. All stormwater is managed through an existing stormwater system on the back of the lot. We are showing a dewatering system out here onto the beach if it's needed. The intent here is hopefully that we can get everything coordinated with low tide and we can get the tanks in here quickly enough. We'll look at building temporary shoring systems to excavate everything out to then lower these new tanks into the system. Again, a lot of conflicts in the area. We're trying to get this up and operating so that there's no impacts. And we do believe it's a vast improvement to the dune. And we will turn it back over.
Thanks, Zach. Jen.
Zach, where you have your erosion control along the back there leading up to where you need to get into that dune system, can you put some orange construction fencing there so the guys aren't backing into what little dune is over there as well? Great. Yep. Okay, we can condition that. I don't have any other questions, Mr. Chairman. We were out there with Scott McGann from the Board of Health. We were with Bracken Engineering, and Zach, I saw Kevin here. Am I promoting him up as well?
He's here in case you have any questions.
Okay, and Kevin Klein from, I believe he's Stantec, right?
Stantec, yep.
Stantec, to just kind of go over what's going on. It does need to be repaired. We want those grease traps out of that dune system. To excavate the existing ones out of the dune would just cause way too much damage. So I think this is the best we can do with the situation we're presented with. So I don't have any other comments at this time, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Ms. Bergeron.
No comments. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. Kevin, we'll start with you.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Maury.
I have a question. I know removing those tanks was a big intrusion into that dune, but filling them with slow fill concrete, that's just, that's just adding a lot of concrete in a dune that is going to migrate. And then what are we going to have? It's going to be like a seawall there.
It's sand and it's like a soft sand, soft concrete, lean concrete.
Can
Yeah,
we put sand?
it's still, why can't you just fill it with sand?
We could do that. We're just trying to keep the buoyancy and everything down
Just
and
that
keep the
way
system down.
there. I mean, I would like to see them removed, but if it's more invasive to remove them, I just feel that they're quite a large structure. I mean, that's a lot of cement in the dune. But that was my only concern out of the whole project, and I mean, it's gotta get done. And it's what you gotta do, but filling that with slow fill concrete is just a lot of concrete in a dune, in a V zone. And maybe it is better to put the concrete so it's not floating because of the buoyancy issue.
And that's your hand.
No, I was just gonna ask Zach if it could be, if it would be an issue to just fill it with sand.
We could do a sand and put it in there. It's just, I mean, the lean concrete's easy to get in and underneath, but we can definitely crack the bottom and then get a slurry with water and sand mix in there. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, I'm gonna get to everybody, so relax.
I'm all done, thank
All
you.
right. All right, Melissa?
Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, so Zach, along the lines with the sand, I mean, isn't it standard operating procedure with an old septic to just sort of collapse them in on themselves and then sort of fill them up? So couldn't you do this?
Collapsing the top would be more disturbance to the dune.
Yep, okay, but, okay. I'd like to see sand in there instead of concrete as well, because as you've mentioned, that everything's gonna be migrating anyhow. Two, other questions or a comment and a question. One, there seems to be a path while you're restructuring the dune, while you're rebuilding the dune that's going to have all this effect. There's a path basically that follows the 10-foot topo line that sort of goes along the whole back there. Do you think you guys could sort of depath that little path through the dune and sort of, I mean, I assume you're going to be putting in plugs of beach grass and other types of dune plants. Maybe you could sort of fill in that path just to.
We can work with staff and then narrow it up. I do believe the hotel does use that to get down to the beach.
Yes.
Yeah, they can go, no, not the one by the beach shack,
Right.
one that's sort of parallel to the grease traps, and it goes along the front wall of the, I guess they call it the bistro there. So it sort of goes to the bistro door.
There's a door there.
There's a door, yeah, so they do need the access along that way to get to the building.
I don't know if we're talking about the same place. This
Yeah.
is, it's
I'm not
it's
sure.
along the 10-foot topo line.
So are we talking right through here?
No,
The doors and the access against
no, go further west. Go out beyond your dashed lines. Keep going. Yeah, back in.
Right.
A little more. You see your 10-foot your 10-foot topo line?
right
Yeah,
there?
it's
So
there.
There's a
There's
path
it's
through
there. Yeah, there's a path through there.
Okay, yeah.
That
we can
goes
work-
all the
we
way
can
up and
work with
off your
staff
plan.
on that, yeah.
Yeah, it's going off your plan. It just looks like some kind of, well, it's just a path.
Hmm.
Not a very big path, but it's obviously used. And then the storage containers that are on a concrete pad, supposedly, I didn't see the concrete pad, but it says that they're going to be temporarily moved during the construction. Are they used actually in the kitchen? I mean, can they be moved permanently away from there? So it didn't look like it was on a concrete pad.
No,
Are they-
they use it, that's materials that they need for the place, so we're gonna move them out and then bring
Kitchen.
them back. But they just because of the function of the facility.
Okay, and they're not going to be moved anywhere onto the beach, right?
No, we will keep
No.
them on an impervious developed area.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay,
Yep.
okay, thanks so much. That's it.
All right, Steve?
Thank you. Zach, was this an emergency situation? Did they fail suddenly or something?
Yeah, the top of the tank actually collapsed and fell in.
That's
So
pretty
currently the
simple.
system's being pumped right now by just haul trucks coming in, pumping it out.
Right. Okay, thanks. I think this should improve the situation. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Betsy?
I have no questions.
All right, Courtney?
Were you, when you were contemplating backfilling that, and using concrete, were you really thinking in terms of something like flowable fill?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, yeah, that stuff is a little different. I wouldn't have a heart attack about that.
Yeah.
It's
lean concrete.
self-leveling and it keeps it from dropping and so forth. It's essentially filled with a little bit of concrete and it's 100 pounds PSI max. And it doesn't settle. I mean, it doesn't, when you don't have to compact it, it would break down it'd be easy to dig out of there if you had to.
Mhm.
And so if you want to use it, I wouldn't personally have a heart attack about it. I've used it a lot around in construction projects and it makes life a lot easier.
Anything else?
What's your thinking on that, Jamie? You're familiar with it.
Well, I was just going to shock you and tell you I actually agree with you. It would help with the buoyancy issue.
Yeah, the buoyancy issue.
Yeah, well, that would certainly solve the buoyancy issue.
It certainly would, but it also gives us a middle ground from, the perception of actual concrete versus sand. It's yeah, I agree. It's a good middle ground. So if that's what, Zach, if that's what you're actually proposing, then I would agree with Courtney. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, the flowable fill. Yep.
I agree.
I mean, I wouldn't object to sand either, but just not solid concrete. All right, Courtney, you good?
I'm good.
All right. Jen, public chat, please.
Yes, we have a few public chats on this, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
So this is from Sarah Hines. It says, does this any way affect the wastewater now or until the repair from the hotel bathrooms / guest rooms?
No, this has no effect on the bathrooms or anything from that. This is just kitchen flow coming from the kitchen waste.
Okay. And when will this repair occur?
As soon as we get approvals from your commission and then from DEP.
Okay, so you're in contact with DEP and they're aware of the situation.
Yep, we've submitted the request and the paperwork for them.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And then from Nick Finnemore, I believe it was just mentioned that the system was built in 1982. During the zoning board meeting last week, it was represented as being 30 years old. Can the age of the system be confirmed?
So the wastewater plant was built in 94. That the tanks in the back here, based on the as-built, seem that they came in before the upgrade of the wastewater plant in 94.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting Kevin Klein from Stantec up as a panelist. He is one of the engineers on this project.
Okay.
Where did Kevin go? Oh, he's coming on now. Kevin, I've promoted you to a panelist. Would you like to say something or address the board? Need to turn on your camera and your microphone, sir.
There he is.
Yeah, I was going to answer, but actually Zach got it correct. This grease tank that's out here predates the existing wastewater treatment plant. It was built back when the entire site was served by actually septic systems, and then an old treatment plant that was replaced in 1994. This only serves one of the two restaurants.
Okay, thank you. And then Sarah Hines is saying to Mr. Finmore, he wants to ask us a question. He has to raise it in Zoom. Okay, I think he must miss it. Mr. Finn, oh, no, he's brought his hand out. Okay, I believe those are the only chats. He's thanking everybody, and I don't believe there's any more public comment regarding this project.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right.
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing We have read in public chat. We're voting to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
All Hawks eye.
Melissa,
Right side eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Klein.
you.
Thank you.
All right.
Everybody's
Next
miserable.
up, William and Melissa McKim, trustees, Nina's Marina Realty Trust, 306 Scranton Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to conduct improvement dredging. Jen?
Yes, I believe, Raul, this is gonna be yours. So Raul Lajardi with Cape Ann Engineering has been promoted up to present the project.
Excellent. Razul, you're up, sir. Rahul, sorry.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant for this project. If I could share my screen.
Please. Thank you.
So the project is located at 306 Scranton Ave. It's proposed dredging in Falmouth Inner Harbor, specifically towards the western shores of Falmouth Inner Harbor, closer to the mouth of the harbor. The project includes approximately 11,000 square feet of footprint on land under the ocean, which is the hatch area that it's included in the site plan that was submitted, and is roughly 570 square cubic yards of material that's proposed to be dredged. The reason for this dredging is to regain the water depth for proper use of docking at these piers. These piers, this one was licensed around the 1930s. Then it was followed by this one around the 1950s. And then in the 1990s, the bulkheads were built and dredging in this area was approved under a license. Those licenses, this is the one from 1930 for the one pier. This is the one for the second pier. He followed it by the bulkheads and the dredging around the outside. And then most recently, there is a license that was approved for pulling back this section of the bulkhead and also doing additional dredging within the area that was previously contained within the bulkhead. This plan that was submitted, I believe in 2017 and approved, kind of tells a good story. In this vicinity, the harbor has accumulated about a foot to a foot and a half of material at the bottom. In this pier, we had elevations of 6.5 to 5.5 to 3.5. And now we're dealing with elevations of 5.3, 4.1 on that same float. So it's something that's happening throughout the inner harbor. The state dredges the channel itself to elevation -10, if I remember correctly. And all these shorelines have been accumulating sediments. What's happening is when these docks are being used for boating, the shallower areas are becoming a problem. So the applicant is looking to restore those water depths to properly use the docks and have less impact to the bottom of the harbor. One of the conditions that he's agreeing to is he was willing to donate 5,000 quahog species to be located in the location that the Shellfish Constable chooses. He's also proposing to relocate any shellfish that is encountered and uncovered during this project and relocate them to the location that the Shellfish Constable chooses to relocate them. There will be a dewatering basin within the lawn area. This is a similar dewatering location for prior work that was done out front of the existing bulkhead. And then the material is going to be hauled away from the site. There was a comment about this area for dredging being on somebody else's property. The properties for all this owners ends at mean low water. So this area right here is within land of the state. So that will be something that the Chapter 91 waterways process will either grant this dredging that traverses over the projected property line, but it is not an area that's proposed on somebody else's land. It's really the state land. So that is the project that we are proposing for the applicant. We did use the word improvement dredging kind of arbitrarily in the application, but the project is really regaining what was dredged back in the 1990s to gain those depths that were existing before. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer.
Thanks, Raul. Jen.
Yeah, Raul, it would have been a little clearer had that story you just said been written in the notice. I don't think it was clear to us because we were so focused on improvement dredging, and I literally have a note that says regain, because when you said regain, I'm like, wait a minute, is it maintenance dredging or improvement dredging? So next time, you know, kind of that illustration you said with the water, with the old Chapter 91 plans and the new ones, that kind of would have made it a little clearer and a little bit more straightforward for us to look at.
Yeah.
I think we were just, you know, we saw the improvement dredging and we're like, okay, it's kind of a higher bar you have to meet. It's not a commercial property. We were kind of struggling with that. But what you're saying is that these areas were dredged to the depths that you're requesting in a prior permit.
So the permit from 1990 was dredging down to minus 5.5.
And you're
But
asking for -6?
The applicant wants to go to -6, knowing that this is gonna pick up more sediments as time goes on.
Okay, so it is a little bit of improvement dredging, that extra depth. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. I agree with Jen's comments. One thing I really try to do is go through the narrative, pull out everything I can. I did find the shellfish after you mentioned that, Raul. Sometimes it's difficult when narratives are 11 pages and most of it's regulations. It's hard to pull out where you're saying you're proposing something sometimes. So I don't know if there's, you know, a little asterisk or something you could use. I'd hate to miss critical content again. But thank you for explaining it. I think it makes a lot more sense now.
Excellent. All right, commissioner comments. Maury.
Unmuting. No, that once you clarified that, Raul, it made a big difference. And the time of year restriction will obviously be put on it. And other than that, with that clarification, it changed a lot of my questions. Thank you.
Excellent. Melissa. Oh, I'm sorry. I cut somebody off. Jen.
No, I just wanted to say we did receive the time of year restrictions from DMF to follow up on Maury's comment. So there are time of year restrictions that will be placed on this project.
Thank you.
All right, Melissa.
Thank you, Jamie. So Raul, now I'm more confused after your little description there, because of course, you know, this is all state lands, and you were saying that these were, I mean, the piers were put in the 1930s and the 1950s, but the the bulkhead postdates those by quite a bit. And when was it last dredged? Did you say 1990, was it?
No, the last dredge was just recently. It was a permit from 2017. I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. Could have even stretched into last year.
And they want to do it again?
Well, no, the section that was dredged was the portion of the bulkhead that was pulled back by about 10 feet. So not these areas that we're proposing now. If I can share my screen, it will probably make it.
Yeah, please,
Uh,
if I could, Mr. Chair. Is that okay? I mean, the part that's jutting out?
So this portion of the bulkhead was pulled back, and the area in front was
Yeah.
dredged. So that was the last project.
But what about the places that are being asked to dredge now?
So
When were those dredged last?
the last permit was in the 90s. I don't know when it was the last actual dredging of those areas, but the permit dates back to the 90s.
Tell me about the fill that's behind the bulkhead that's there, because I mean you have the historic mean high water line, and it's obviously on land there. So what's the deal with that?
So yeah, in 1990, when the bulkheads were proposed and approved, that area was tidal land. So the state approved the bulkhead and filling behind the bulkhead. So we still need to show the historic high water lines because it is still jurisdiction of waterways.
And so the owners, they call themselves Nina's Marina. They're not a commercial marina, correct? It's just a private house. We've been out there before, and I've been out there. It looks like a private
Right.
residence.
It is a residence. It initiated being commercial back in the 50s and 30s, but it was at some point transferred to become a residence.
And so when they filled in the area and they put in the bulkhead, didn't they think that perhaps they would be, toying with the water levels or the land levels behind or around their docks? Didn't they realize that, sediment needs to flow, and now they're suddenly blocking the flow of sediment with their bulkhead?
So yeah, that's a phenomenon that happens every time there is a physical barrier that jets into the water, and similar to groins, it will accumulate sediments, and it becomes a routine maintenance of the levels at the bottom of the harbor.
Yeah, so instead of dredging further on land containing shellfish and dredging deeper and finding shellfish that if they were to find it, they're proposing they would relocate them. They could just cut off that bulkhead and let sediment flow the way it wants to naturally flow, and they probably end up back down to, -5.5, -6 feet. They were to do that, right?
Yeah, I don't think that is planned.
Yeah, but you don't think that the adding of the bulkhead actually created this problem that's going to have this disturb what's here now?
I don't know.
And so basically, if this is all state land, these are private people, and they want to dredge. And they want to dredge in front of their house.
Yes.
Yeah. No further questions.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Steve.
Steve,
You're
you're on
muted,
mute.
Steve.
Can't hear you,
You're on
Steve.
mute, Steve.
Steve, you're
Steve?
still muted.
There I am. No, I don't
Okay.
have any questions. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Not at all.
Good plan, Raul. I did have a question. Apparently, if the state isn't a butter, it doesn't count.
Well, the state, as the owner of the land, has to issue the license through waterways. So that's how the state gets involved.
Thank you.
All right. Betsy,
Raul, since Alyssa brought it up, I'm just going to mention something about your narratives.
oh boy.
I'm just gonna say, personally, it's not helpful to me to have the regulations regurgitated. I have the regulations right here. I'd rather just know what you're gonna do. And then, I mean, that's what I do when I go to a site. What are they gonna do? What effect is it gonna have on the environment? And how does it relate to our regulations? So Alyssa's too kind to suggest that you maybe modify how you present. You always tell a good story. Tell a good story, and then we'll say, oh, it's a Raoul's. If this will be an interesting read. That's all.
We can work on improving our narratives.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all, Jamie.
All right. Courtney.
I too was a teacher and I used to instruct my students on writing term papers. So an alternative could be that you could put footnotes at the bottom of your narrative, pointing
Oh,
to pointing to the specific regulations in mind. Then if we want to find the reference, we can. Otherwise, it doesn't destroy the narrative and it looks more scholarly. And we'd be impressed. No further comments.
Oh boy. Next up, we're gonna have a class on writing narratives. Raoul, I'll apologize. I like your narrative.
I'll teach it, Jamie.
Kevin,
No comments, Mr. Chair.
chicken. All right. Dan, any public chat function, please?
Not regarding this project, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Third, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Arlo Hawks eye.
Melissa,
Hodgepodge eye.
Steve?
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Raul.
Thank you. Happy New Year's, everyone.
Happy New Year. Good night.
New Year.
All right. The next one has been previously continued. Brings us to continued requests for a hearing under notice of intent. First one has been previously continued, brings us to Ray Zion, trustee, 174 Penzance Road Realty Trust, 174 Penzance Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a flood wall on top of an existing licensed stone wall, extend the existing stone wall, and install a plunge pool and mitigation plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I promoted Mark Dibb up to present his project from Cape and Islands Engineering.
All right, Mark, before you start, I just want to clarify the quorum is all of us, as this has not been previously opened. Mr. Dibb, you're up, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering, representing Gray Zine at Penzance Road for a notice of intent. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the project tonight is two main items that are proposed. One is a extension of and expansion of a seawall, and the other is a plunge pool adjacent to the house. The property is at Penzance Road, 174 Penzance Road. To the east is Great Harbor. To the west is Penzance Road. It's an existing single family dwelling. Resource areas on site are land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, Great Harbor. There are two pockets of existing salt marsh, one kind to the north end of the property and one to the south, as well as a coastal bank, an existing seawall, and then your A and B buffer zones. So start with the pool. They're proposing a plunge pool up next to the house. It's entirely in the A zone. It's an entirely within either lawn or some existing shrub area. It would just be proposed as shown on the plan, and it does trigger. It is an area of about 327 square feet, triggering 981 square feet of mitigation. And that's just part of this proposal. The other thing is, the other main part of the proposal is, so there's an existing seawall at the property. It runs from one end of the site in this area to the other end. And just give you some frames of reference, the top of the existing wall is at about elevation 2.5. And the top of the proposed wall is at 6 feet. And the intention of this wall is just basically some additional protection for the property. High tides or extreme high tides come to almost the top of the wall that exists today. So by adding this extra 3.5 feet, which would be added directly to the top of the existing wall along the face of the water, and then it will tie in as quickly as possible back to elevation 6, so that it creates an area that would stop minor events from potentially getting towards the house. It's just a small level of protection. Flood zones, the house itself is an AE elevation 17. So, this flood wall is just, again, for smaller events, just to add some protection to the property. There's also a velocity zone at elevation 18. So, we're not trying to protect this house from any kind of flood. This is not a 10-foot high wall. And we've provided some details on how that could be constructed. We've provided some construction access and means and methods to how we might how this wall could be built, and that wall, the wall also triggers mitigation. The green areas on the site, basically, there is a garden enclosure and some lawn, would be. But so the buffer would be enhanced by creating mitigation along that frontage of the property. There is, we've shown this yellow area is a floodgate. We do want to maintain some access to the pier and piles. Right now it's anticipated to be like a manufactured structure. We're still defining the exact type of gate. There's actually a passive gate that when water does rise, it slowly rises up. There's some float material behind it, and then as the flood recedes, it goes back down. So I think the intention is that is the type of gate versus some kind of manual gate. But in any event, it will, protecting the waters from going in. And then if it's a larger event, we also have a capability to let the water back out as well. So let's see, another area that kind of came up when we submitted this project, we did submit a couple of certificate of compliance requests. And so we've gone through, in the certificate of compliances mostly had to do with the dock structure. There we've uncovered, with staff and I have uncovered some non-conforming pieces of the dock. One of which there's a float in this area that's larger than licensed and previously approved. So we're proposing to remove that larger float and put the sized float that is supposed to be there. There was also a fixed portion of pier, a 4x20 fixed area that was removed. and that was permitted and removed. And however, a larger 6x18 float was installed, and we're proposing to reduce that float as well down to 80 square feet. So this piece of platform was removed, and which was 80 square feet. We're proposing to replace that with a float that was 80 square feet. And the last piece that came up while we were reviewing licenses is this a little 62 by 42 inch piece of platform that's been incorporated into this existing pier. We're seeking authorization to leave that small piece of dock. It did appear in one of the licenses, then it disappeared. You know, we would follow up an appropriate license that section. It is structurally included in the rest of the pier, so to remove it could be very difficult. You know, we are seeking permission to keep this small piece of section. It has been there, as far as we can tell, it has been there from approximately 1997. So it has been there a while, but it does not appear there was local approval to put that section of dock. But those items and questions came up kind of as part of COC requests. If the commission would allow, we could address those via this plan. If more data needs to happen with the piers, those orders could just stay open, and we could continue to work with the commission and staff to handle those changes. I think that covers the project. I agree with narratives. If they can be 2 pages instead of 11 pages, I'd be all for that. But if the commission has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thanks, Mark. Jen?
Mark, it appears the plan you just put up was different than the plan that you recently submitted. Did you change it? It had the green area of mitigation near the pool was missing from yours.
At a
my plan dates December 27th.
yes, Alyssa had one new staff comment, that the green area near the pool should be 10 feet away. That mitigation should be 10 feet away from the pool.
Okay.
So we did submit this plan today, just electronically. So if that's an issue, we can work through that.
Can you put the plan back up? I just don't see where you move the mitigation to.
You see right here, this.
I can't see
You're
the
not
plan
sharing,
right now.
sir.
Oh,
Stop
sorry.
sharing.
Sorry. Let me get that back up.
Let me go into my email for you.
Yeah, so this entire swath right here, you'll see I'm almost connecting to the end of the stone walk now.
Got it.
There's a width of about 6 feet over that entire area.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So that's there. And then I think the only other thing, like the only comments I will have, it's just the dock kind of bothers me a little bit that all these extra floats have been added over the years. I know it's not your fault, but in 96, you know, we permitted the little, if you're looking at the staff report, the little, the little green float. Then when you look at the 96, chapter 91, it added the little bump out that's built into the dock. It's just, it's bothersome. So I would like to see basically I don't think I can support that 80 square feet extra float you have there somehow. I mean, I think this dock is quite large. And to have all these extra floats on there in a velocity zone is just, it's not sitting all that well with me. I know the little southern, I guess it's the southern end. What's the area? Yeah, the southern ramp and float. I mean, that was properly permitted in 96 or thereabouts. I'm fine with that. The other float that they're requesting, I'm not so. I don't think I can recommend. Other than that, I have no additional questions.
All right.
No
Ms.
problem.
Bergeron,
Thank you. Thanks, Mark, for making all those changes. My one comment, not to dwell on the narratives. One thing I love about your narratives is you always have the permitting history in a handy dandy chart. They're super helpful. Don't take that out. I wish more had that. Thank you.
all right. Mark, I have a couple questions. You're increasing the wall by 3.5 feet. Are you proposing any fill?
No fill behind it. No, it'll just be a vertical wall, same grade on the front as the back.
Okay. Then on the dock, with what you're proposing for changes, does that bring it into compliance with Chapter 91? Jen, you made it sound like there was one of the floats is a new float. Did I understand that right?
Well, I think the way we read it is the southern ramp and pier was permitted by the Concom, but not by Chapter 91. And then the little bump out, the little 18 square foot bump out on the north side of the dock was permitted by Chapter 91 and not the Concom. And then this red float in your staff report just existed. And then they're requesting the blue. They're going to remove the red and request the blue.
I have the 3 versions of I could show them real quick. The 3 versions of the license, if you want.
Please.
Okay. Zoom in. So this was November of 95. So you have, it's got the L shape and then it's got this platform. This is the 4 by 20 platform. And then in 12 of 96, there became a new license plan that the difference is there's a proposed 42 by 62 platform. So that's that little bump on the end, as well as a couple piles. But that, I think we all agree that doesn't appear to have local approval somewhere. And then a later version.
No, it did have it.
Has this. So again, we're just trying. Okay, so there's the revision. I was trying to get the timeline right. I saw overlapping dates here. So this was a 4/28/97 date, which has this, and this does have the local permits. So what we're proposing to. Right now there's a float much larger than this, so we are proposing to but now the little thing is gone here. So I guess the answer to your question is it would not be compliant today because of the bump here and the float, but the intention behind this float was that it was to be the same square footage of this piece of fixed pier that already has been removed. So
Okay.
basically I feel from what appears on licenses and what was permitted, it does appear there is a whatever that 42 by 62 inches increase is, which is whatever that is, 5 by 3.5. Yes, 18.
You're looking at 18 square feet.
Yep.
So when was the actual pier put in itself, Mark?
I'm not too sure about that.
That was the first one you showed, no?
No, I want to know when the pier was put in.
Yeah, even on this first plan in 95, it's an existing pier and piles.
Okay.
There is another license plan. There's the wall was licensed, was the pier part of the wall license. Just bear with me 30 seconds. Oh, okay. um, 89. Let me share one more thing if it's okay.
Stop, Richard, stop.
There we go.
No,
Oh, got that? So this looks like proposed pier in 87.
Do we have a local permit for that 87 pier, Mark?
That I don't know if I have an handy answer for it, although it should be in our table in the narrative, but if you want, I could go on to other questions and I can see if I can dig that up.
I got it's right here. Construct ramp pier with split level docking. Is that it? That's issued in 92. Let me look that up. I can look that up while the commission keeps asking questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. All right, moving on. Melissa.
Thank you, Jamie, and thank you, Matt. Hi. Couple of questions while we're trying to figure out the pier. I guess it's to the south.
Melissa
You're adding, first of all, you have a note on your new plan, the one that I have that's dated the 28th of December, by the shed where they were, dumping clippings and things like that. Your note says that existing grass cuttings and landscape debris to be removed, which I was gonna ask for. Area to be revegetated if necessary. I'd like it to be revegetated. From the looks of it, it looked like it was just sort of going over the edge and that there was more rock debris and things like that under there. So please do that. But the extensions to the wall itself, I mean, we've got on the southern end of the wall, we've got the wall that curves around, but you've got a new wall going in of about another, what is it, about another 120 feet or so, another 80 to 100 feet of wall that's going in. And then also to the north, you've got another 160 feet or so of wall digging in. And you mentioned in your monologue just now that this is a small level of protection for the house, that the wall is going to be 6 feet high, and that you're trying to sort of, I guess, blend it into to the 6 foot topo line. But the whole time I was out there, I was sort of looking at the neighbor's property thinking, well, wait, this is a small bit of protection for this property, but isn't it going to encourage problems next door on both ends? I mean, especially the southern bit where there's that little marsh area. Isn't that just going to sort of eat away into, won't that exacerbate the erosion into the area there and then eat away at Penzance Road itself?
So on the south side, there is a portion of existing wall that will remain. You'll see there's a gray area that is in front of the salt marsh. That goes off the property. So
Yeah.
we're in that you can see the dark line that has the 33.73, and so we are building a new wall that will tie into the 6 contour there. I mean, I think it sounds like you're asking if floodwaters will be displaced away from this property onto the other property.
Yeah, and if you look at the new wall
Let
that
him
you've
answer.
designed, yeah, it goes 5 feet from Penzance Road.
So, I mean, it's the ocean, so there is, it will, where there's no way to particularly offset the elevation of the ocean. You know, that the amount of water is so vast that by obstructing this small amount of water from getting into this property, we don't feel that will exacerbate the neighboring property. And there is, with the exception of the last about 30 feet, there is already a wall there that's up to elevation 2.5. So there's, you know, a relatively minor extension behind
Okay,
that.
so that's the southern bit. There's also a blue kayak in the marsh there. That's just sort of detritus. It's flipped upside down. It looks like it's been there forever. If it's on their property, maybe you guys could get that thing out. But then, I guess I have the same question for the north bit. I mean, the north side is going all the way around to the, I mean, I'm looking at your new map again that goes behind the garden enclosure here where you've got the new our mitigation plantings going. That just
Yeah.
it seemed like overkill going around the corner there. I mean, there's no water there, but it's all A zone in there in flood zone.
Yeah, there again, you know, to make this work, to give a level of protection to elevation 6, you know, we do have to tie it back in. And that area coming around the north where between where the words plantings and the other tree line, you know, is a path that's historically been there. So we're basically tying into the northerly edge of that path. Going you know, to the 6 contour on that end. Again, it's you know, that's the sole purpose is to try to protect the site a little bit better, and we're just trying to tie it in also, you know, to a suitable elevation 6.
Okay, well, I guess then I'd also suggest that to help protect the site a little better, the quote naturally vegetated area that you had proposed to do your mitigation plantings in, but I noticed that you've moved the mitigation plantings out of that and you've just allowed it to be naturally vegetated. That's basically been turned into it's been hacked down and hacked into a hedgerow. So I'd like to see them stop pruning that and just let it be natural, please. Okay. But other than that, you know, and it's the same to the north of the floodgate that you're putting in. Please let all that be naturalized again. I mean, I understand people's instincts to want to cut down their shrubs to open up their views, but you know, they'll serve their purpose better if they're in peace, as you know. But great site, and yeah, let's figure out the docking permits. All right, but thanks. That's it, I guess, for now.
Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are we ready on the dock? But I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Betsy.
I just want to make sure, Jen and Alyssa, that all the Chapter 91 permits are included with this file for the next time we do this go round. And beyond that, we can discuss the dock when we vote on it. Thanks, Mark.
All right, Courtney.
Let's see, Jamie, you've answered my question about the fill. And I would kind of second the idea about these docks. I think there should be a little examination as if there's anything that's at variance from what's been permitted in the past, and if there is, it should be fixed as part of this notice of intent. No other questions.
Okay, Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Maury.
I just had one, Mark, where you're putting the new cap basically on the existing wall. is that wall structurally, are you gonna have to get into that to do any repairs, or is it okay?
We do have some details on the plan, but there's a couple notes that specifically say a structural engineer will be involved to both investigate the condition of the existing wall and to design the extension. If anything changes and we're not able to build in the exact location shown on the plan because of structural consultation, we'll have to come back. But the intention is that we would be building per plan and do not have to rebuild the existing wall. You know, if something other than that, those two conditions happens, I think there'll be a significant enough change that we would have to come back.
I think in the future, when you have a project with this type of requirement, structural, evaluation, it would probably be prudent to do it prior to filing so that you're not coming back and you're halfway through the project and then we have another whole ball of wax that we've got to deal with. I would have liked to have seen I know you don't have control over that, but just in the future, you might think that it might be more prudent.
Yeah,
With
if I
that
can.
wall, and that wall has a lot of issues going on.
We've been in contact for over 6 months to get a formal design on the structural, so we're still trying to get that wrapped up.
Okay, I know, there's a lot of moving parts here. And like I say, looking at that wall, that old granite wall, it's putting this much investment of another 3 feet of veneer on top of it and cement block, what its capabilities and its footings are. And that's all, and I agree with everybody on the docks. Permits, thank you.
All right. Courtney?
I will strongly second Maury's comment that you should have gotten the engineering done before you came in.
All right. Jen, how do we want to work this with the dock? Our question, should we continue this to deal with the dock? Should we, is the dock separate, like as an enforcement order? Because they were seeking certificate of compliance. So we're now tying it together with this wall project. Is that correct?
That's correct. I don't think that's a problem, that if they reconfigure it, we can grant them compliance for the docks, and then they'll already be in compliance with the docks for the old permit. And then that'll be set. That'll just be part of this permit that's already dealt with. I just looked at the old permit, the 1083 permit. So if you all go to your colored staff report that Alyssa gave you, it's really easy to follow along with that. And it has the schematic that Mark had sent us. So Mark, if you have that little schematic, can you put it up on the screen so they can follow along? Because I think you're all set. I just looked back at that and I think you're all set. I think it's a reduction. If you have that email that you sent us.
Just
If not, I can share it real quick.
I'm pulling it up right now. I think, okay.
It does, it clarifies everything, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have that here. Let me.
Yeah, so if we pull that up. Thanks, Mark. So the original permit for the big pier structure was issued, it's like 10, what's your permitting history? It's 10 DEP number 251043. It permitted the big pier structure and the red float or red attachment or red piece. Okay.
Okay.
Then in 96, it permitted local Concom permitted the southern ramp and float, that green one right there. Okay. So now what we have to deal with is the little bump out and the request for the new blue float. If the red part goes away, which is 80 square feet, and the new float they're requesting is 60 square feet, and the little bump out is 18 square feet, you're ahead by 2 square feet because 60 and 18 is 78. So it's basically the same amount of square footage that was out there that was permitted It's just in a slightly different configuration. So I think the dock is okay the way he's actually has it drawn. So I'm going to revise my my prior comments and say, I think it's okay if I'm looking at this correctly. What do you think,
Right.
Alyssa? Alyssa,
Mark, you
I'm
can stop
coming.
sharing.
oh yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I think the confusion, Jen, is when I took that schematic from when I was speaking with Mark over email, what he actually put on the plan to propose was 80 square feet. So I think if we keep whatever changes want to be made at the same square footage, I didn't realize those had been.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Etched.
see what you're saying.
So I
Okay,
always thought it was a
Mark.
surplus 18 feet we were
Yeah,
trying to deal with.
surplus. Yeah. So if you go back to your schematic and we bring that float down to 60 instead of the 80 you have on your plan,
Okay,
you're gonna
yeah,
be- you're gonna be good.
okay. I had spoken to the owner and he was respectfully requesting 80 square feet plus the bump out, but you're saying, essentially saying, you would suggest a equal swap. So instead of the 10, the current plan has 10 by 8, I believe, right?
Correct.
The 10 by 6 you would support. The 10 by
I
6
can
small.
support the 10 by 6. I cannot
Gotcha.
support the 10 by 8 because this pier structure is enormous in the velocity zone, and they've gotten a lot of little extra floats and everything that would absolutely be impossible today. So
Okay.
I can support the 10 by 6. So we can make a revision that we can support a 10 by 6 float. And then we can just ask you for the revised plan. And I can go ahead, I can recommend closing this hearing tonight.
Okay. Melissa,
Thank you, Jamie. So that resolves the red and blue floats, but the green float, we're still reducing the huge thing that was
Yeah.
out there down to the one that's still also
it-
not chapter 91 approved.
No, it was,
Yes,
Mark
we're
had
not.
suggested-
It's going
That's it.
down to the green float. The big one's going away.
Yeah, I'm just confirming it. Thank you, Jen.
Not a problem.
all right, so is everybody clear that we believe the dock and floats will all be in compliance?
Yes.
All right. So, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Not regarding this project, Mr. Chairman.
I make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Gladfelter second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the motion to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Melissa,
Right, guy.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Dibb.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, Philip and Deborah Graham, 53 Toby Lane, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a detached garage, enlarge the existing driveway, and to install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mark Dibb is here from Cape and Islands Engineering to present this project.
All right, and again, Mark, let me interrupt before you. The quorum is all of us, as this hearing had not been previously opened. Mr. Dibb, you're up, sir.
Hi, thank you again, Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering. With your permission, I'll share my screen.
Yes, sir.
So the NOI we filed is for 53 Toby Lane for Philip and Deb Graham. This is an existing single family property. It's about 57,000 square feet. There's an existing dwelling existing driveway, an existing shed, pathways, and existing licensed pier on the site. Resource areas, we have Eel Pond to the north is actually to the right side of the page. You can see the north arrow. So to the east is Eel Pond. To the north and south are two existing properties, and in Toby Lane, this property is at the end of Toby Lane. There's a salt marsh along the water, as well as there's a coastal bank and FEMA flood zones, and then the associated A and B buffer zones. So the existing project, the main portion of the project is this detached garage we have located in this area, as well as just some expanded driveway in order to navigate in and out of this side of the garage. That garage is partially in both the A and B zones, triggering approximately 1,300 square feet of mitigation. Another component of the project is you can see behind it, there is an existing gravel turnaround, but there is a pretty significant stand of bamboo in this area. So within the limit of work, the bamboo will be removed physically, and this black line represents a deep root bamboo barrier to be put in to limit that. We are not proposing to continue further into the bank, further into the site, to remove the remaining area of bamboo. It's quite large, but we do intend to restrict it from the garage area. A few other notes. So the mitigation areas are shown in green. This mitigation over here will remove some lawn as well as some ornamental plant beds, and as well over here, part of the mitigation of the existing driveway will be basically go from 2-car width down to 1-car width. So mitigation will be proposed where the existing driveway is, as well as in some planting beds. And just a couple other notes during staff review, there is a portion of patio that was expanded underneath the deck, but also a little bit out of the deck, that resulted in 16 square feet, which was added as well to mitigation requirements. So we're providing the mitigation shown on the plan also includes mitigation for this small portion of patio, as well as some kayak storage was taking place in this area. We're proposing to allow all but a 30-inch path to restore in that location. And there's a rather large arborvitae right in this area that's basically overgrowing the walkways. They're proposing to remove that and essentially restore that area with native shrubs. We were not including that as mitigation though. And one other note, there's a large tree in this area that is you can physically see if it ever had an issue, it could hit the house, and it's diseased and pretty much dead. We're proposing to remove that, and there is one tree in the footprint of the proposed house, so we are proposing 2 new trees as mitigation, and a dry wells for roof drain to be connected. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Mark. Jen?
Mark, maybe you covered it. I was trying to look at something. That little area of restoration in the middle of your path, your little walkways, what is that?
That's where I mentioned that there's a rather large arborvitae.
Got it. Okay, that's the arborvitae. Okay.
Yeah, so it's just
the reason I missed that, I was kind of focusing on your root barrier. So your root barrier, it says approximately 36 inches or approved equal, 36 inches deep?
Yes.
Or 36 inches wide?
I'll be the first to admit I'm not a bamboo root barrier expert, 36 inches deep. And I've seen different recommendations between 24 inches and 36 inches.
Okay,
But I believe 36 inches would be appropriate for this project.
okay, because I recently saw a root barrier that was literally a tire concrete wall built into the ground. So I just want to make sure that I'm envisioning the root barrier like a root barrier should be and not a subgrade concrete wall. Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Bergeron.
No comments. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. Steve.
Oh, thank you. It's clear to me, this plan. I can't believe we didn't open this before, but I don't have any additional questions.
Betsy.
Mark, did I hear that you're cutting down 2 trees and you're replacing 2 trees?
Yes, we weren't initially mitigating for the dead leaning tree. I think where you're going at is, since we're over 1,000, I think you're probably requiring 3 trees.
Boy, Mark, we're on the same wavelength tonight.
we were hoping not to mitigate though for the dead leaning one, but we can surely add 1 more tree.
Thanks, Mark. Made my night.
All right.
That's
Courtney.
all, Jamie.
I have no questions. I always agree with Betsy. Good point. We gained a live one from a leader.
Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Maury.
No questions except for the ornamental bed in the mitigation planting. It's all.
Well, that's an existing. There was a previous plan, clearly had ornamental beds. That's just existing non-native, just ornamental flowers and things like that. So we're proposing to remove that and replace with the mitigation plantings.
I didn't see where the ornamental bed was being replaced. You have it's a white square out of it.
Yeah, there's a tree line, the different shade green, there's a tree line, then there's the words ornamental bed, then you'll see another line. It's basically, we go from tree line to ornamental bed to lawn.
Okay.
That's
As long as it's planted, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right. All right. Melissa.
Thanks, Jamie. I'm gonna, Mark, I'm gonna tack on to Betsy's comment about replacing trees. Those 2 healthy hollies across from the proposed garage that are now going to be proposed paved driveway. Are the hollies going to survive this?
They're about 10 feet away, so I don't believe there'll be any issues with those. The client definitely wants to keep those, and
Okay, let's protect those hollies. Okay, thank you. And around the garage where you say that you're going to do cedar with native mix, it's a light green, which is the same color as your light green of the restoration of the understory. You're going to be sort of restoring that as well. I mean, are you going to be putting in other plantings sort of around the garage to help keep those
around the garage is the intention is to be a maintained just a grass, just to be able to continue to get around that. It will be a native seed mix grass, but we need to just be able to get around that and not have plants growing into the garage.
Okay, but those hollies will be protected. Okay.
Correct.
Great, thanks. That's it.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Only that the property owners were here and they were deferring to Mr. Dip.
All right. All right. Any other questions or comments? All
I'll
right,
make a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Melissa,
I thought I.
Steve.
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Good night, Mark.
All right. The next hearing had been previously continued. 124. Brings us to request to amend an existing order of conditions. Frank and Monique Mitchell, 5 Teachapam Way, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4656 to permit after the fact changes to the deck and driveway.
Yes,
Jen?
Mr. Chairman, the applicant's representative has withdrawn this amendment request. When staff reviewed it, these were minor changes to the design, and we felt that we could approve them administratively and issue compliance.
Perfect. All right.
Good job.
Yeah, love it.
All right. Last motion, who wants it?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Carlo-
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Aye,
Come on, guys, wake up.
brother.
It's Maury's turn.
Carlo Hawks, aye. I thought,
I
I
thought
didn't,
I.
Oh, Kevin's
Oh.
turn.
Kevin missed it. Yeah, you threw us all off.
O'Brien,
Betsy.
aye. Sorry.
Sorry, Maury.
Sorry, I was writing that something down.
Freitag still says aye. Happy New Year.
I'm aye. Happy New Year. We're allowed
Good
to say
job,
that.
Steve.
We're
Close
adjourned.
it
Thank
up,
you,
buddy.
everyone.
Good night, guys.
Night, everyone.
Night,
Good night,
everybody.
everyone.